It's been 3 long years, do you still want me? If I don't see a ribbon round the old oak tree, I'll stay on the bus, forget about us, put the blame on me.
Did you know that every 7 minutes a black person is born in this country without soul? Hello, I'm B.B. King. Won't you help Don Simmons and the thousands of others that suffer from this tragic disorder? Its cruel symptoms can strike anyone. Let's take a look.
I think the Republican Party has done one heck of a job. Don't you, June?
I'll say, Ward, we Republicans have turned this country around.
Safety and good mileage are the two things I looked for in a new car. That's why I bought a Volvo station wagon.
Hi, I'm president of the David Hartman fan club here in Glendale. I've even met David Hartman once. What a neat guy.
Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cherry. A sweep is as lucky can be. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cheroo. Good luck will rub off when I shake hands with you.
This is B.B. King saying, won't you please give, so that Don Simmons here and so many others can become useful members of society.
Or below me a kiss, and that's lucky too.
Write to Blacks Without Soul. Post Office Box 1305A, Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you.
That's the T-C.
Andy Warhol and John Waters, in conjunction with Saliva Productions, present Jim Barrie's beloved children's classic, Peter Pan.
I think I see him. No, that's just a cloud. No, it's not. It's Peter.
I'm flying. I suddenly here am I'm flying.
Yes, it's Divine, starring as the boy who wouldn't grow up.
I won't grow up.
I won't grow up.
I don't want to go to school.
I don't want to go to school.
Just to learn to be a parrot.
Just to learn to be a parrot.
And recite a silly rule.
And recite a silly rule.
Well, haven't you anything to say? Anything? Out of sheer honesty?
Yes, I would just love a duck dinner.
Have you even heard him sing?
He made me sing last night. And if I were straight, I'd make you high-five me right now.
You are letting your judgment be completely clouded by lust.
Yes, thank you. See, Robert, Saul gets it.
Look, this isn't about me anymore. That dunce cannot be Sky.
Robert, I hear you, but I feel like you're not even considering Stevie's badonkadonk.
Okay, Pit Pat is a magical pixie. You can fly around.
Hey, you can't have all that swearing. It's offensive.
Look, lady, I don't come down to where you work and slap the dick out of your mouth.
That's it.
You're right, that's it. That's the new slogan for Grandma Betsy's biscuit powder.
The world of the future is much cruder than the world of today.
In 1994, you couldn't say the word bitch or asshole on TV. Now it's okay.
Where do you think we'll be in the year 2000?
Are you interested in staying on the cutting edge?
Yeah, but what happened to Grandma Betsy? She looks like a man.
She is a man.
The fastest growing segment of our population are transsexuals. They buy and spend for two.
You haven't even begun to peak, but you're gonna peak today. Oh, you're gonna peak all over everybody. Make it work, Dennis.
Together forever and never to part. Together forever we two.
Make it work.
I can never have children. We can adopt some. But you don't understand, Osgood. I'm a man. Well, nobody's perfect.
For shame, Doc. Hunting rabbits with an elephant gun.
Elephant gun?
That's right, Doc. So why don't you go shoot yourself an elephant? You do, and I'll give you such a pinch!
We're going to start our volleys. We hope you like the show. Everything is ready. We're raring to go. We'll give you all the latest songs and then it's full of them. We're gonna start with high chucks. Just watch this chorus steps.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fantastic Comics Presents. This is our 139th consecutive Tuesday. I was just coughing, and then I took a swig of something, and then I started coughing again. The things I try and cram in before the show starts. Speaking of cramming in, we were going to be talking about LUDA, the novel by Grant Morrison, and to join me, we're going to have Joe Corallo on this show in just a few moments. At the beginning of every show, we do a little segment we like to call the Wrestling Minute. Maybe after today, we won't like it as much. I haven't really been watching wrestling. There's one of those free live events if you get Paramount. The Paramount live event that WWE is going to be putting on soon. It's one of those gimmick matches like throughout the show. I'm not a big fan of that. Speaking of gimmicks, this happened on AEW one time last week.
And now, the green mist!
Oh, that poor Julia Hart taking it on the cement. Holy cow. That happens a lot over there because not unlike the old ECW days, they take chances with people that aren't, always the most safe. Getting into stuff is so important all the time, and I haven't been a fan of that for a while. You know, I got conditioned to not care about chair shots and stuff like that, but it's new to some people, and some people never grew out of it. And look at this.
And now, the green mist!
Jesus Christ, get it together. And with that, that's your Wrestling Minute. Hey everybody, my name is Yule. For those of you that haven't seen this show before, it is a comic book show. It's a little bit different than some of the other ones because it's actually one that's hosted by a guy that owns a comic store. That's me, Yule. Down below, you can see my address. We're in Berkeley, California. It's like, you know, the what is it called again? That shit on Buffy? It's the Hell Mount. For all the rest, y'alls. But you know, that allows me to buy certain types of books that you can't necessarily get at other stores, and I also am inclined to get them. One of the reasons we're going to be talking about LUDA, because I have that novel in my store, a novel in a comic book store. And for all of you people out there that are watching on the Yule Carter channel, come on over to the Fantastic Comics YouTube channel. Subscribe, notify, bells, all that stuff. And come say hi. And we're going to be talking about this book in just a few moments. We're going to get through all that other stuff really quick. What is that other stuff? That'll be scrolling on the bottom. But before we do that, and I think this is going to be pretty quick because I've looked ahead. Let me say this.
We didn't come to borrow any money. We didn't come to borrow any dough. We didn't come to borrow any trouble. We just stopped in to say hello. Oh, hello to you, Mr. Benny. Please don't think that we are hammy. We just stopped in from Alabama. We just stopped in to say hello. Oh boy, you said it. We just stopped in to say hello. And don't forget it. We just stopped in to say hello. And I'm hello. Hello. Goodbye.
Hello, everyone. First up, Fantinian was here to let me know, let us know, let all of us know he's seeing Smile, which is a new horror movie. He'll watch later at double speed, I'm sure. Then I'll sound like normal to normal people. Jill's in the other room. She's saying hi. Actually, she's walking right by right now. And Eric D's here. Hello. This is going to be the highest rated episode of Fantastic Comics Presents ever. We'll make this up to you later on in the next couple weeks. We're going to try and get Rick Worley on. But I don't care. We're going to talk about a book. But before we do that, I would like to introduce a comic writer, a comic editor. I think he's an editor for a comic company right now. Works on something that Comixology is putting out. And we're going to ask him all about that and then get his views on a few things about comic books. And first, I'd like to do this.
You have that look about you.
One that says I need a drink. One that says you need a positive review.
We're fellow travelers, warriors of words, soldiers of syntax, pugilists of prose.
Writers.
Oh, fucking writers, man. Let me tell you. I'm sorry. Hi. How's it going?
Yeah, it's all right. How are you?
Pretty good, Joe. Yeah, so you're working on some stuff right now, right?
Yeah, I know. What was it? Like you mentioned with the Comixology thing, that wraps up a week from today. The last part of that comes out. So the Never-Ending Party issue 5 is be out through Comixology Originals, but they are printing a trade of the 5 issues through Dark Horse. I don't have the exact date yet, but it is they even today were asking me about different files, making sure, checking everything. So that's coming up soon. And I also have another Archie short out in December.
Archie.
Happy Horror Days.
All right.
Which is going to have a new story by was it Frank Thierry and Joe Eisma for the with Jughead the Hunger. There's going to be another one of those in there, so that'll be fun. And I have a new Mad Cave book out in December, but they're doing a New York Comic Con exclusive for issue 1 that and I'm going to be at New York Comic Con, so you could get a head start if you're at the show.
Excellent. So that's impressive. You're going to be there signing that comic, and you're not just like you're a professional guest, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're letting you in for free and everything.
Oh, I
you
got
don't
that
have to.
badge.
It's your backyard. They're like, come on in.
Yeah, it'll be good.
It's better than when you used to have to pay, right? Or have you always been lucky enough to like skate by?
The past few years, I've been able to kind of skate by or this and that.
Skate by. You're doing work. I'm just joking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. But, yeah.
Well, that's excellent. I think I killed that. So yeah, anybody that's going to New York City Comic Con, you should go say hi to Joe. Get the first issue of your book. What's your book?
Dahlia in the Dark.
Dahlia in the Dark. What's that about?
It's basically a crime noir urban fantasy.
Really? Is it set in any particular time?
It's contemporary-ish, but like an alternate kind of Earth. And it's a bit of a road trip. They're going from Pennsylvania to New Mexico, and you're sort of following that trip. And also there's basically it's like a mobster's like last job is delivering this package and gets caught up in this like ferry war along the way. So it's a lot.
Ferry, you mean like with like a fantasy aspect?
Yeah, it's like these different fae, and there's also harpies and werewolves too. So
I see.
Yeah.
So is it like traveling into like maybe I should ask like a pocket dimension? I'm thinking like Stephen King's Talisman right now.
Yeah, it's more just driving around in cars, but there is some elements of that as well.
Awesome. So yeah, and that's this week, right?
What was that? It's next week. So the 6th through the 9th. So
all right,
yeah,
excellent. I'll clip this. Now that I'm done reading a book, I have time to do extra stuff.
I was also at the AEW taping where that happened. That you just showed.
No, you weren't.
Yeah, I was.
Wow, I know you were going to be going to a show, but that was yet another show you went to, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. It's wow. So tell me about the damage. Did she like get up right away, or was she like on the ground for a while?
I don't recall. Like, I feel like it was a little in the middle. Like, I don't think she got up immediately, but it wasn't good. They were able to get her up and out. It wasn't like a big thing.
There's been some times where a person who, and the thing is that a lot of these people are new and they're running before they're walking, that type of thing. We probably shouldn't see them.
Yeah.
It exposes the fact that, it is a dance. You're supposed to be good at showing it's not a dance.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. The book is kind of a little bit like that also.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. Anyway,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a few things. I was for just a few minutes on Twitter. Sure. I was looking at some of the things that were trending, and one of the things that popped up. Actually, I wasn't looking; it was recommended to me. there was
Sure.
like a Jim Lee hashtag. I don't know if you had paid attention to any of that.
I saw that earlier today. Yeah, I wasn't sure why, but
All
I
right,
saw
so I guess then that really ends the conversation for the most part.
Mhm.
I did take a look at it for a moment, and it was all
Yeah.
these people just giving their love to Jim Lee. And I'm
Sure.
like, I kind of scrolled a little bit. I'm like, I got to admit, there was like for a second, I was like, what? Did his job change?
Yeah.
Or did he like just say F it? I'm sick of it. Or did he get a promotion? I don't know where you could go.
Yeah. I don't know what that
But
was.
it was
like.
just people like giving their love and like, hey, just like Jim Lee's the best fucking artist there ever's been, that type of thing. And I don't know, is it like a troll or do I really mean it? Because like Jim Lee's all right, but someone's like,
Yeah.
the work that he puts into his pages, and I have a friend who can't stand the amount of work that he puts into his pages. The Death Blow stuff was best as far as he's concerned. Do you think Jim Lee needs the support?
He was trying. A similar thing happened like a few weeks ago too. I remember, and I don't really know why. Maybe because of things going on with like uncertainty with like the movies and Warner, if that's like making people decide they want to stand up for Jim Lee. That's the only thing I can really think of. I don't know what
All
else
right,
it could
there
be.
you go. Jim Lee, hashtag Jim Lee forever, or whatever. I stand with Jim Lee.
Yeah, I mean he's fine. Like art wise, fine.
He's not my all-time favorite, but I've enjoyed things about that he's done.
Yeah, I mean
whatever.
He's not my favorite X-Men artist. He's not my favorite Image founder, but
he's not even my favorite Wildcats artist. Wow. Fuck. Damn.
But
not
he's
Ryan
good.
Benjamin though, so you can worry free about that.
Yeah.
Eric D says new book sounds interesting, Joe. Liked Beckstar, so we'll definitely give it a go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. Joe's here. Joe with numbers. Wildcats is coming back. That is a true statement.
Nice.
Samurai Santa was Jim Lee's best work. My eyes twitching right here. Okay, so a couple of we've talked about the second person, so I'm going to talk about a new person that has come forward in comics with their health condition, and it's not good. And I hope I'm getting the right one because I didn't take notes on it. But Carlos Pacheco, who is quite handsome there, I think. He is my favorite. I always have to say, comic book superhero artist and alternative illustrator. So I don't make a whole bunch of different variations, but I have to at least have a little bit of variation because, you try different things rather than mainstream stuff. And Carlos Pacheco, ever since I read Avengers Forever, has been my favorite superhero illustrator. And this is super, super horrible news. And it's I don't think you can say I hope you get well. I hope it gets managed is what I think it comes down to.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
I'm
awful.
not, yeah. You're kind of.
No,
okay, good. Do you like Carlos Pacheco's work at all?
Oh yeah, no, he's a great artist. It's I'd probably cite Avengers Forever as well, but I mean he's more or less drawn all the major Marvel characters over the years, and he's
he did a JLA JSA original graphic novel. I forget who was the writer on that. Maybe Busick. But so like he's pretty much done like the DC. You know, he worked on Flash back when I liked Mark Waid's Flash.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like it's just actually I guess that's before Avengers Forever. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, that would be,
yeah, anyway, and now since you're here, this is is it co-writer? Are you editing Rachel Pollack, or
we're co-writing?
Are you
Yeah.
You're co-writing with her? And what is that again?
We were co-writing the Neverending Party for Comixology Originals.
And that's going to be a Dark Horse graphic novel eventually.
Yes.
Trade paper, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so Rachel was in the hospital and is no longer in the hospital. Is that correct?
She is in a rehab facility right now. So she's not in a hospital, but she's still in a facility.
And when you say rehab, you're not talking about, you know, it's a sick rehab as opposed to
yeah,
I do things and get sick rehab.
Yeah, no, it's the former. It's not unlike some like nursing homes, like
right.
where it's
and there's a GoFundMe up for her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that's like GoFundMe interested, I'm sure all you have to do is just search it. Right.
Yeah, because I mean, she's basically been in either the hospital or a facility. She hasn't been able to go home in over a month. So those costs do add up.
Yeah. And I'm sure like regardless of the collections coming out, that shit doesn't pay anything.
Oh yeah, no, it's it's just a lot. It's to help, sort of going through this, because she's probably also going to be there for the next several weeks or so. I mean, if she ends up being healthy enough to resume chemotherapy, again, she's not going to go home for a little while, or might be able to go home and then has to go back, and it's going to be a process either way. So
right. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I'll definitely put a link in the comments down below. I didn't think about it because this is just one of the pictures that I've had up before, and talking about all the shitty stuff that happens to our veterans in comics, and how there's it took a long time for football to get a players fund. Think about that.
Yeah.
Comics ain't making that money.
Yeah.
But of course, they have unions and stuff like that. And
well, sure.
Do you think that and this is just shooting it, do you think that Image union is really something that is God, I don't know, like needed? I mean I understand like fighting for pay and your rights to work and stuff like that, but we really, when I think of creators or people that are getting screwed in comics, it's usually the people that are creating the comics.
I mean, the union they have, if you care about, creators' rights and being protected, that doesn't really affect it. It's another kind of thing. So, it's hard to even weigh in terms of that. I think if you want to see creators protected, and if you were dealing with like a union, I mean, you'd need probably like an editors union or something, because you would need editors who are empowered to be like, no, you can't just unjustly, you can't just fire my writer artist mid-run. Like, you have to negotiate. We have to come up with an exit strategy. We want the creator to leave on like their terms or whatever. And like, if you had editors who could go to bat and be like, no, they have a vision, they can get it done in 4 issues, and and negotiate or whatever, that might be something. But what they have at Image now might be good for that, more of that like administrative side of it, but it ended up getting so much talk and buzz but it's not actually anything anyone
Not at all.
You know, like if you're reading comics and you're invested in the product, it's not really concerning you, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's just it feels like, you know, of all the injustices in comics, you know, the people that are working to put previews magazine ads in isn't really. I've had friends that do that. You know, they used to be centered in Berkeley, and my buddy got fired. And you know, if there was a union at the time, he probably wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
He screwed up though, and I like to make fun of him about it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, speaking of making fun, if there was like a union at Marvel, do you think Namor would look like this? And what do you think about this Namor?
I don't. Here's the thing. I don't know how he's going to act. So much of Namor is his presence and demeanor. If he comes off like this cold, heartless, calculating person with like the Grinch's like miniaturized heart, which is like just enough to occasionally have compassion for someone, if they can get that across, the other stuff is like, you know, whatever. If they can't, it's that much worse, you know?
Right. I could have used a little bit more pectoral muscles, maybe. Maybe they could CGI that.
Yeah, I mean, you could just CGI it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the costume or whatever, I'm like, I don't know. It's like, sure, I guess if you want to, like, it does feel like there's this reaction of like, oh, well, Aquaman came out and made $1 billion, so we have to go in a different direction.
Right.
That's how it feels to me. Like, I know some people are, you know, hypothesizing and adding some other elements to it, but I have to imagine that's probably the primary element is the studio is just like, Aquaman made over $1 billion, they're making another one. Let's not, like, what can we do to make this character different? You know?
Right. I guess. I mean, personally, the winged feet, if they keep that.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not a big fan, but that will definitely stand that person apart, you know? I
Yeah,
mean,
I thought we were getting the winged feet.
I don't like the winged feet. I've never liked the winged feet. Little wings are not like, I'm not into them at all.
No, I get
like,
it, but like,
that's so Greek. Ugh.
Yeah.
All right, so that's comic stuff that's been going on, and since I've got you here, I'm going to talk about new comics that are coming out, and then we're going to go right on into LUDA. So
Excellent.
let's try it and jam through this. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you are for the first time and you like what you see, maybe subscribe or hit the bell for notifications. I have a banner for that. Let's see. Here, it's right here. We also have a Patreon that costs money. We have a Substack that doesn't cost money, and you can find out stuff that's going on in the store. We're doing a you got to buy issues 5, 6, and 7 of Image Anthology, which Joe Casey, thanks to Joe here, who got him in touch with me. I have an interview with him on the YouTube channel or on the Patreon channel. A little extra insight from the man, the myth, Joe Casey. Anyway, he created Miss America Chavez. I call her the whole name because I like the whole name. And she is in Vengeance #1, which is quite an expensive comic book, and it's a variant cover, so it's even more. I call it. It's probably like a 9.0, a very fine 9 mint. This is possibly a hundreds of dollars comic book, and all you have to do to get entered into the wheel spin, which is a whole internet thing. Everybody's raving about it. We're going to be giving away that Vengeance to one lucky person. So I'm opening that up to people outside also, but there's mailing involved, so we'll wait till all of it's out, and then we will do the big spinner Rooney. Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Anyway, let's talk about some comics that are coming out if you are available, Joe.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's see. Okay. Human Target, Tom King, Greg Smallwood, after a after a hiatus, it's back for its final issues. What do you think about Human Target? You can say it.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a slick looking book.
Greg Smallwood's amazing. Does a really good. Covers are excellent.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's a variant if you're into that type of thing, which I have a customer that is. All right. Tom King, everybody. Next up, we have also from DC, The Nice House on the Lake. This is getting near its conclusion. James Tynion, and Alvaro Martinez Bueno. I think there's some computer coloring going on in there or something.
Yeah, I like Nice House on the Lake. All of these starts and stops kind of kill the momentum for me.
Yes. Me too.
But
I've read 7
so
issues.
I'm probably just gonna wait until it's over and binge the whole thing, because that's just where I've gotten.
That's how I pretty much order it now. Now that we're on the 10th of 12 issues, there's just no reason to like up my orders. Next up we have Thor number 27. Donny Cates is writing Venom yet again, and now in the pages of Thor. After a big old Thor Hulk crossover, now we're getting this. Do you care? I get
okay.
Thor. I don't get Venom. Do I have to get Venom? Is that what I'm thinking?
Probably. It's interesting that Ewing's the top name.
It is interesting because Donny Cates has been late on stuff lately. Yeah, been waiting for those books. A book I don't have to wait on, even though I heard rumors that it was going to be delayed, and I was like saying that it was going to be delayed. Spider-Man just keeps trucking, and this time it has art by Nick Dragotta. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
I know a lot of people were making fun of this cover. Is John Romita Jr., is he washed now, do you think?
I feel like if you got him the right inker and the right kind of coloring, it could work.
Yeah, this coloring is just trash. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work at all. It looks like John Romita Jr. was like, "Oh, I'll color it."
Yeah, it's if you set him up in the right situation, I think he can still.
I mean, Hannah's been inking him forever. So this is probably like Dan Green, I thought was horrible on him when it was in X-Men. Like we all over here hate it. Dan Green is definitely the contributing factor of me not liking his X-Men run mostly.
Well, sure.
Sorry, Dan Green. Sorry. He's like here for the LUDA conversation too, and that's very upsetting. Lazarus Risen, speaking of comics that barely come out and writers that are barely working in the industry these days. Lazarus. I got fans.
Yeah.
Do you like it? Do you read it? Have you read it?
It's not in forever. And yeah, it's like coming out again. I'm like, oh wow, okay. Maybe this will get me to go back and read through it again and catch up.
Well, what I'm hoping is like, this person also likes Monstrous, and maybe I have the new trade in, or maybe they like Wonder Woman and want to see what Wonder Woman's doing because Rucker wrote it, at one time, more than one time.
Yeah.
But Lazarus, everybody. All right. I gotta admit, I'm excited about this. I wasn't, because outsiders coming in and writing comic books, but the premise is kind of cute, and it's Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell is writing this. I mean, really? He's the one writing it? Let me get that banner down so I can see. Yeah, I don't see anybody else's name.
Yeah, unless Eduardo Rizzo's like kind of co-writing it with them. But...
Holy cow! Really? I just assume I don't know anything about this. For me, Eduardo Rizzo is as anonymous a person as anybody was back in comics. But I just imagine that there's some translating going on. Could be wrong. Maybe he's like down the street. This is America, fool.
Yeah.
But anyway, there is even a body bag edition of the comic book, and I think it has a an explicit cover on it. So there you go. All right, now this one I really need to know what you think, because I have a customer that hates the art. He's young. You got to forgive him. And then everybody you and I know thinks the writer is basically the most garbage. If I said that the writer is one of the most garbage writers of all time, who do you like? Doesn't get the characters on a fundamental level, can't keep themselves out of the writing. Who am I talking about?
Here's the thing. I know who you're talking about. I would not say this about this person.
It doesn't matter. I'm just talking about other people that you've heard talking about this person. Who do you think it is?
Mark Russell.
It is Mark Russell.
Yeah.
Very good. Oh, now that's a game that I can start playing with people.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Russell's coming out with Superman Space Age #2. I personally love the very first issue of this. Mike Allred with his wife coloring as usual, as per usual, is doing it. And I just I find it very fun and interesting and thoughtful, and a Superman character I want to read. I can't believe like all the people that are like shitting on Son of Kal-El and the way he treats his father, and then they read this and like this isn't like Zack Snyder's Pa Kent telling him to hide his shit all the time. You know, he's like, be thoughtful about it, you know. And they're just like, hate this book. What do you think of the first issue? You can
I loved it.
You can say you hate it.
No, I loved it. I'm sappy and enjoy. I enjoy a lot of Superman. I finally grabbed the 3 Man of Tomorrow archives they put out that are all like the color reprints of like the early Silver Age stuff.
Yeah.
So, because I've been keeping an eye out for those, but the first one's been out of print for a while and was going for like, you know, $200, this and that.
Ridiculous.
So I finally got it at like barely over cover price. So I was like, all right, now I'll get the rest of them, and I got that. So love me some, you know, Wayne Boring, Kurt Swan, Al Plastino. It's a good time, but no, I'm a Mike Allred mark. So I'm
there you go.
Get that.
He drops an elbow, boom, every time.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, there was a time when I hated Mike Allred because I was contrary. You know, his Madman for Dark Horse was very not Tundra. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And you know, but he has since won me over many a time.
Well, his first DC gig, I believe it was his first. If it wasn't his first, it was his second. Was doing Brother Power the Geek as a one-shot with Rachel Pollan.
Yeah, boom. That needs to be in those collections too. Just throw it in there.
Yeah, it's really good. It is a genuinely good comic. I hate that that's not more out there, and that DC hasn't been like people like Mike Allred. Let's reprint it. And,
and get Vertical out there while you're at it too.
Yeah,
just waste money.
Go for it.
That's a waste. I love it, but you know, for those of you that don't know, you should check it out. All right, next up we have. I'm saying right now, this should be when they are talking about miniseries. All right, a sticking of the landing is very important in a miniseries, especially. But if this isn't on the top of the list when they talk about like miniseries, when they talk about Eisner's, last week I talked about Ducks. That's definitely going to be a winner next year by Kate Beaton. I only have one left. So like, ooh, I'm selling it. I'm really happy. 8 Billion Genies, the way this sells in my store, this will please all the people that like everything. And if you haven't read it yet, it's got, it's high superhero fantasy in a way also, and it's not every character. There's so many characters, and they don't all behave like you necessarily think they're going to behave. And I really enjoy the series. Have you been reading this?
No, I haven't read that one yet. I've been
Right.
waiting for it. I do want to read that one.
Trade weight it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
You'll I think you might enjoy it. I like Charles Soule.
Yeah, I believe it's I believe it's Soule, or I think it's Soule. But
he's a New York guy, isn't he? You'll probably bump into him.
I've been reading him since he was doing the that Mexican wrestling comic Strongman. He did at Slave Labor Graphics.
Really? I didn't know that. I mean, Slave Labor is like just down the street, basically.
Yeah, I gotta see if I have it here somewhere. But I was reading that, and he had, what was it, 27, which was his like Shadowline.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been a fan for a while.
He was the guy that tried to make the Inhumans good. And he was the only person that did that, even in the slightest.
Yeah, he almost did it.
He almost made me care. I like that detective. Anyway, 8 Billion Genies is amazing. This is when you leave the main companies and have even the slightest following, and you come out and you do this type of work. This is why you leave the main companies. Otherwise, why bother? I wish there was more or less comics from Image that were this good more often than just the everything. Briar. Oh, I don't know why I highlighted this. There was something about it that made me think it might be cool. Definitely a cool cover. And Herman Garcia is good. And Christopher, I love what Doc says on Thinking Critical. He's Christopher can't write well.
Yeah.
But I've read things that he can write well. Just his Iron Man's not good though. I mean,
no.
I've tried.
I tried to. That Iron Man was just painful. But maybe that's good.
I have a customer who's all, I like a little bit more Iron Man in my Iron Man comic.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I'm more of the type to be like, oh, maybe I read something or a few books from someone that I hated, but if they put out another book and it's a different kind of thing and it sounds interesting, I'll try it out. Like, I don't mind checking it out. I don't make like personal things out of it if I think someone can't write a character I like.
I like it's funny to me.
Oh, sure.
Okay. I think we're just about ready to get into what we need to get into. I'm going to run what you need to do in order to win Vengeance or to be able to qualify to. So scroll on the bottom of the screen right there. Thank you everybody for joining us. I can't wait to talk about LUDA.
Yes.
I think I've burnt as much time as I possibly can. My preamble is, it used to be embarrassing to call yourself a comic book creator, a comic book writer. Is it embarrassing still to call yourself a comic book writer outside of comic book fandom?
I haven't experienced that.
Right.
People tend to, think it's like, they might be, placating you or just kind of being like, oh, that's cool. Like, that sounds
friends
fun,
don't
but,
count.
No, but I mean, like, even, you meet someone at a party, you're talking like, oh, that's like, if anything, because of how the world is right now, which is, could be better, I think, is, I'll often get people who are like, that's great that you're doing something that gives you this creative outlet, and then they'll usually follow up with like, yeah, I work like this job and I've been like trying to get like a podcast going, or I've been trying to stream regularly, and it's hard, or like, or they'll start telling you like, oh, I've always wanted to write something and I like have this novel idea, and then they'll tell you about their like novel idea, or the YouTube or TikTok show they're trying to make. So it's not embarrassing in the same way. If anything, I tend to feel embarrassed for the people who are then telling me that stuff, but it's fine.
So it's gotten to the point, but the thing is that being a comic book creator, we haven't gained any like level of success really. It just seems like everything else around, including those TikTokers, are the ones that are at least getting some sort of like notoriety.
Sure. I mean, everything's like a mess and no one knows what the hell they're doing. So like, yeah. It's just like, oh, you're doing something that's like getting you out there. I'm also trying to do that. And like,
right.
Where it's like oddly even the playing field in a weird way.
How I feel like when I was trying to break into comics, and even like thinking about like real literature and stuff like that, books, it never really seemed like it was very like there was a lot of spaces. Chris Claremont can write 4 books falling out of his falling out of the bed. There was just a tweet that I saw about prices of what smaller companies, independent companies, are paying per page, whether you be a writer or cover artist or illustrator in the comic, et cetera, and it's not enough to like live on, really. Definitely not a writer.
Yeah, no, you have to be writing an X amount of books regularly to do it, or you also have to be doing other things like editing and picking up other gigs along the way.
Right, living at home.
Living with home, living with
that
the
gives you money.
Like
Hemingway needed those. Hemingway did.
Yeah. No, but I mean, a lot of people. There are people with less satisfying jobs that are working soulless jobs, who also are only able to afford to get around because they live at home, have a spouse that supports them or something like that too. So
right,
you could be fucked either way.
I highlighted a few people within comics that have gone out and plied their trade as far as novels are concerned.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if you know these books and if you've read any of them.
Sure.
Okay, so first up we have Elliot S. Maggin doing Miracle Monday. I have wanted to ever since I read the annual that talks about it, but I have yet to get my hands on it, and probably will not have read it yet.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but I love like Elliot S. Maggin's comics work. I've read plenty of that. He's contributed to like Legion of Superheroes and other things that
I can't imagine this is going to be like high art or anything like that, though.
That's fair.
Next up, did you know that John Byrne did a book?
I believe I heard he did.
He did a horror novel called John L. Byrne's Fear Book. I don't remember finishing this, but I did own it.
I believe the critics also said open it at your own risk.
John Byrne's counterpart on X-Men, Chris Claremont, he wrote quite a few novels. Firstly, I didn't realize that this was a trilogy. I did know that there was a second novel. Now, the thanks in the beginning of the book for this one is to all of the X-Men that he worked on. Aurora, he says, and Kurt, and all the others. and music being played through the headphones, very futuristic, is Leela Cheney. Just to let you know. So Leela Cheney is in the First Flight universe.
Interesting.
Grounded and Sundowner. Never read these. But he also worked with George Lucas on these shadow stories. I've never read any of these.
Yeah, no. Interesting. No.
Did you ever read Black Dragon with him and John Bolton? That's a graphic novel.
Yeah, no, but
it was epic, or something like that. I've only read the beginning of it, but it's fantastic illustrations, and whoever plotted it out did a really great job. I want to highlight this writer, Peter David. He did a Hulk novel, and he did a ton of Star Trek novels, whether it be Next Generation or OG Crew. His Next Generation novels, I think, are better than any of the programs, unless there's like one specific thing that you like in a program that Peter David doesn't deal with. But his work with the Doctors and Data, and some of the other B characters or C characters is so great. I really do like him. I do not show you guys his night stories or any of the other stuff because it's just too punny. I don't recommend it.
It's fair.
Alan Moore did Jerusalem.
Yeah.
This is 3 books in one, I do believe. The way this is. I haven't read it, but I own it.
Nice.
And a whole bunch of Neil Gaiman novels are out there. And the thing about Neil Gaiman to me is that all the things that he did in comic books, or he did for comics, I don't think that Neil Gaiman actually did for novels. I think they're fine pieces of work, but whereas Neil Gaiman this is my critique of Neil Gaiman, where he's so much bigger than comic books. Here he is writing comic book stories that are writing Hugos, and maybe that's telling you a lot about the people out there that are like nominated for Hugos from Neil Gaiman on. But if a comic book 1-issue story, just a solo story about Shakespeare is winning your Hugo Award, maybe you all have to start doing better. But I don't think he really brought that to novels. I do love Good Omens, and Neverwhere is all right, but I'm not that big into Anansi Boys and wanting to read all his other stuff. The bloom is off his rose for me, I think, is what happened.
What is it? I got my copy of American Gods.
Yeah.
And, what was this? I got this a little bit ago, and let me see. Yeah.
Look at you. I was a big Neil Gaiman fan. I thought he was really wonderful in comics, but I don't know. Maybe I just expected a little too much, or it just all really seems kind of run of the mill, or maybe I just expected too much. But Grant Morrison coming out with a novel, and not Super Gods, coming out with something, I don't even know what to expect. Like, I didn't read about what this book was about. I just found out he's doing it. I put the order in. I'm going to make sure I read it.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't read any of the reviews. There's like one LUDA review on YouTube, and I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, I did watch that, but yeah.
Was it any good?
It was, I mean, the review was basically, like, if you like Grant, check it out. Goes into like, some of like Grant's tropes and things like that.
Okay.
It was fine.
Aplenty. Grant tropes aplenty for sure.
Yes.
And you were able to go see him speak. That's signed by him, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Nice. So I'll ask you questions about that.
Sure.
I want to, for people that don't know who Grant Morrison is, why would we be talking about this book on a comic book show? Well, Grant Morrison, and then for you book people out there, maybe you don't know about Grant Morrison, and he, kind of like Neil Gaiman, is one of those people that has taken comics, for me personally, to such a level that we're still trying to catch up to some of the stuff that he's doing. And other people have been brave enough to, like Rachel Pollack, she's brave because following some. I stood in line at a comic book store for Doom Patrol, and this woman was asked by the guy at the customer or at the register. She was before me. Oh, you're not getting Doom Patrol anymore. So she stopped with 18, and she's all, no. The art stinks, and that story is maybe it was issue 20, something like that. So she tried the first issue, but she was just running it down, and I'm like in line with my Doom Patrol and my other shitty superhero comics that probably nobody really wants. And I'm like, this is the greatest. I'm like thinking, this is the greatest fucking comic book that has ever come out. And that's where I really cut my teeth with the Grant Morrison stuff. He was also doing Animal Man during that time. These were pre-Vertigo, and then some of his work actually went into the Vertigo run, but not his Animal Man. One of the first issues I actually read was late on, and it was this one. And if you've ever been thinking about vegetarianism of any sort, this might be the one for you. But like a very good writer, he turns the table on the person who has coincidentally the same views as he does. And he also in Animal Man met himself, Grant Morrison, and that was a pretty big deal. If did you ever read all that stuff? I'm assuming you did.
Yeah, I read Animal Man, Doom Patrol, Arkham Asylum, like that era of Grant, which might be my favorite. Because those three together, it's hard to. He's done amazing stuff since then, but just in terms of in a very short period of time, spotlights on him, and that's what he comes up with. It's that's insane.
Yeah, and he's like. And the thing is, the Animal Man, you think, oh, it's Vertigo. Doom Patrol, oh, it's Vertigo. It's always some imprint that isn't the mainstream imprint that deals with Superman and Batman. But his stuff was within the context of those characters, Batman, Superman. And he didn't shy away from it necessarily either, even though he had no problem creating crazy new characters. Crazy. Yeah. And I say crazy, but what I mean is just ones that you don't normally see. And then later on, when he does Invisibles and Filth, he really starts really diving into it.
Oh yeah, Filth's great.
Oh, the Filth.
It's really good.
Oh my god, it's like if Doctor Strange was even more Doctor Strange, but policed. He mainstream I think the last part of his career has been trying to be mainstream. He did Happy and he does the Image stuff, but I think the last things that he did that I thought were important were Invisibles, and he was doing which I think is a longer form and multi-charactered Filth. He's got a little bit more of himself in it. Or maybe not as distilled as the Filth is. It's he's experimenting with who he is as a person, and all his mumbo jumbo, his magic stuff, and then his X-Men, which to me, as a person that was selling in a comic store at that time, this was the bringing together the Invisible side of the store and the Superman side of the store. The Frank Quitely doing art on characters that would never be drawn this way. And I know you talked with Perch on his channel about this, and you weren't as congratulatory or as in love with it as I'm making it sound right now. But
no, I
how do you
do
feel?
enjoy it, but I can be critical of things I like. And I could really break down and get into the nitty-gritty of why this didn't work, why that didn't work. And a lot of it is out of Grant's hands. A lot of it is like, rushed art and fill-in artists and things like that. But there's definitely an interesting story there. And compared to where X-Men was going, I mean, fuck. Like, that was it really changed things in a way that I unfortunately think Marvel kind of squandered, because we got House of M not terribly long after that, and then we had over a decade of X-Men being misery porn, and there were some good moments here and there, but for the most part it was, we're all alone in the world and we're dying and everyone's trying to kill us and we have no hope. And I was just like, geez, like, how did you do? Why would you do that? Like, ugh.
What are well, you know what? How about this? We're going to talk about LUDA now.
Sure.
And I'm going to ask you about Grant Morrison's the things that he does in comics that are specific to him, and also how he maybe does that to in LUDA also. But first, I want to change the title of the show to Sci-Fi and Fantasy Read Along. Let me just play this music really quick.
Sure.
Read Along. My name is Yule, and I am joined with my guest tonight, Joe CORALLO, and we are going to be speaking about LUDA, the Grant Morrison written novel. Grant Morrison is famous to comic book fans, and Yule, here, me, is an owner of a comic book store. And if we are lucky enough to get anything of note out of this, I'm going to ask ATN to put this on his channel. Hello, ATN. And thank you for letting me borrow the music. It is by Setu Newman, and it's free. All you have to do is ask for it, and that's what we're doing. Thank you very much for tuning in, and let's talk about LUDA. There we go. Yeah, excellent. Joe. All right, that's actually, let's do it really low. Barely low.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Joe, Grant Morrison. I love Grant Morrison. How much do you love Grant Morrison?
I love Grant quite a bit. I love him enough that I bought this book and had that signed, and I have a signed Doom Force because that was just fun. But
his Doom Force is amazing.
That it was so good. But no, I own an original Doom Patrol page. So yeah, I like Grant quite a bit. I've been a fan, was someone who was one of the earlier writers I identified as like, oh, I like this writer.
Mm-hmm.
I should see what this writer does. So yeah, I would say Grant's like up there for me, and I own quite a bit of Grant's stuff. I also enjoyed Seven Soldiers of Victory.
Ooh, that was good.
It doesn't make any sense until like the last two issues, but whatever.
The thing I like about Grant Morrison is that he thinks big. He, a lot of times, and maybe I'm being leading because I do want to ask you about what some of his tropes are in comic books.
Sure.
I have been a defender of him ever since the 90s.
Sure.
I've had friends that don't like him, friends that accept him, but also have critiques of him. And then there's me who says, I might not like it, but I know I'm going to like it later on.
Sure.
Now, Sebastiano, still don't like it. And I don't care about the Avengers, because if it doesn't have Tony Stark in it, I probably don't like that either.
Sure.
But I do appreciate the lady. I don't know what her name is. That's how much I don't know the Avengers.
Yeah.
But you know, those are like just a few books that I really don't dig. But you know, his Seaman and his Vertigo books that are out there, and Kill Your Boyfriend. It's just like he was writing to the 20-year-old me so that I could still collect a comic book. The trope that a lot of people don't like about him, or the thing about him that a lot of people don't like, is that he has to let you know that he knows everything about the thing that he knows about. And it's like put in like everything. Do you agree?
Yeah, no. You're gonna know he likes the Sex Pistols. You're gonna know Grant's Bowie fan. There's like just stuff like that there's always like some kind of reference here or there of what Grant likes, and likes the Smiths. You're gonna get a line that's from a Smiths song. Like, it's just what happens.
Right. I mean, he did that in Invisibles a lot. Just the whole Lennon stuff, if I'm not mistaken. I'm coming off, it's been years since I've read it.
Oh, sure.
He feels like there's nothing he doesn't know. And I think it's his willingness to let people know. I think he's excited, and he puts it in his work. And there was a time when I was young where I listened to the Smiths, and your music in America was a big deal, and reading the liner notes of albums was a big deal, and reading the words and like poring over them as if they were poetry.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison, to me, in comic books at least, has always been that way. This is something to pay attention to. He is writing about things often that writers in comic books haven't dealt with, and definitely most writers aren't dealing with, that aren't like, science journals or something like that.
Sure.
Just like, the crazy wild stuff. But like, I assume that most Star Trek episodes that are being produced right now aren't anything like The Filth or anything like his Doom Patrol. And even Doom Patrol always, Jill in the other room, she watched the Doom Patrol, and I cringed just a little because my street isn't even the street it used to be, Danny. What happened that you had to I'm old. What are you gonna do? You got to meet Grant Morrison. You got that book signed. What did he talk about that let you know something about the book that you needed to know going in, or just little insights that you might want to like regale us with?
There was a whole conversation about Grant's thoughts on reincarnation, in that they were all like, well, I don't think it could be reincarnated because we're all still we're all connected because we're all born of that first mitochondria that split. So how can there be reincarnation if we're all still tethered to the origins of creation, like that kind of shit? And then went further into stuff that is a little more relevant to the book, of having thought of different theories that they don't necessarily believe, but this idea of like, well, reincarnation also can't be a thing because they're like, at one point it's like, if there was reincarnation so many years ago and now the population's like 4, 5, 6 times as much as it was thousands and thousands of years ago, it's like, how can that work you'd be recycling the same souls. So the only way, if you believed in reincarnation, you would also have to consider the idea that there are, a large number of people that have no soul.
That's very interesting because that was always my debate against reincarnation. We have more people than we used to have. We have more people than there are souls that inhabit bodies. And that's actually, you're right. That's a very large premise to the character of Luda that we find out later in the book. I find that interesting because though, isn't he's kind of like really into like Indian mythology, religion. every religion to me is mythology. But isn't there more basis of reincarnation within his Deepak Chopra friend and stuff like that? I could be wrong. Are you?
I think there might be, but like that. I'm trying to think, but that was all stuff that was being discussed. Also, someone asked the question, like, Grant, can you comment on how QAnon has hijacked the chaos magic movement?
What did he say to that?
And without missing a beat, he's just like, oh yeah, no, the rise, like he was talking about the rise of like right wing wizards in the world and like things like that. I was like, all right, I'm here for this, I guess. I guess this is what we're doing. But like, have you ever been in a situation like, I'm sure you have, you run a comic shop, where someone asks something insane and then the other person is just like, oh yeah, and then they're having a conversation and you're just like, I don't know if one person is like fucking with the other person, if they're both in on it and fucking with all of us here, or that this is like a real thing that's happening. I hope it's not a real thing that's happening. This is really, but yeah, that was interesting.
I am going to try and describe what Luda is in just a few sentences.
Sure.
Ultimately, it is the reading of a play in production of Aladdin. There's also this underlying play, if I understand this correctly, of Phantom of the Pantomime. And Grant, like he does in his comic books, has to let you know that he knows everything about this subject. And for basically 2 chapters, he's letting me know about pantomime. Now, when I remember pantomime, it is from high school and it's wordless. And basically, I should have put on makeup and just worn black and white, right? I did, you get a scene that you're supposed to do, and you're trying to like, I guess like it's like not drawing Pictionary. You're acting out Pictionary. And that was to me pantomime, Marcel Marceau, that type of stuff. In the 70s growing up, it was dudes in boxes all the time, pulling on a rope. But pantomime in Luda is cross-dressing as characters. So men are women, and often women are men. And this production of Aladdin is going on. But there's so much more going on in Luda than just that. It is, though, continuously this play is, we're following this play all the way till opening night, so to speak.
Yeah. I feel like Grant is fucking with you for most of the book.
Right.
there's a lot of stuff in the book where they're just constantly taking the piss out of things. They're constantly bringing something up and downplaying it, or bringing something up and like talking about it in a way where you're just like, oh, you're not being sincere. Like, you're not, like, it's weird because a lot of the stuff Grant does, I would think if it was someone else, or if the right people looked at it or read it, would be very upset with how Grant handles some pretty, controversial ideas or topics or things.
Dude, he's all over the fucking place.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he misgenders people constantly, apologizes for it, and then does it again. And I'm not saying that in the most, he misgenders people, I'm catching him at that. He's doing it purposely. Like you said, he's fucking with people. He's distorting and trying to like conflate what a person is, what a name is, what a history is. And there's a lot of shit going on in this book. I started it by thinking, I'm not going to like what I read. I'm you know what I mean? I'm understanding. I'm accepting. But there's just shit I don't want to I don't think I've read Burroughs. I've read, The Beats. I've read all sorts of fucking shit out there. I've read Meat Men, and I don't think I've read as much blowjob action as I read in this one.
Yeah, it's fair.
So, like, I'm reading this book, and this is before that. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to really enjoy everything. But, it's Grant Morrison. I got to know what he has to say. How do you feel when people are like questioning the sexuality of a person, even though they don't have, why are you asking? And it's just curiosity, but I don't know. I feel like, it's not couth to do that, but I am curious sometimes. Grant Morrison's always, skated all over the place. He's stamping on like thin ice all the time.
Oh yeah.
I don't know his deal. I'm sorry, I don't know their deal. And that's another thing, he changed his pronouns, so I got to catch up.
But what was it? I believe they've been with I think their wife for years now. I think they've been with the same woman for many years.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're not swingers or this and that. I'm just,
Well, Grant Morrison, I mean, in layman's terms, what I read was that there has never been language to suit him. And we're talking about Grant Morrison. I've read him since the 90s. I mean, that's like, that's why I like him. But, part of it is like fucked up also. So, you got to figure out a way to say that too. Mm-hmm. So like, when he adopted, he says like, they say like, they'd be like, it might change later on. And that's an acceptance that, you have to make. Having said that, I feel like a lot of this novel is really that also. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Well, first, before we continue, I do have to say these are sigils on the book.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And they're supposed to mean, like, they're supposed to be translated to, this is your new favorite book.
This is your new favorite book. I wonder if that really will be. There's elements of it that make me think like a person will be like, oh, I remember, like you'll quote like either passages or you'll remember them. I don't know if they're like something that would translate like in movie form. The only problem I have with it is that the narrator is, it doesn't feel like all the characters have their voices necessarily. And that Lucy LeBang, who is the narrator of this book, talking about Luda, who is a character that comes into her life, and saying her.
Yeah. But
it's
is like you read this book and at the end you're still thinking stuff like was Luda ever real? Is this all Lucy? Is Lucy an amalgamation of multiple people? Like you're just thinking, you're just like, there's so many ways you can interpret it because it's fucking Grant Morrison.
It's hard sometimes to if I read a mean thing that, you know, I write a mean thing about a dude and his girlfriend.
Sure.
A lot of people might think of me and Jill, you know. Grant Morrison, this is his first not autobiography, I guess, or biography or whatever. This is his first work of fiction. It is still like I am taking elements of Grant Morrison. I mean, you can't help but do that just a little bit. He is an older man. This is an older man also, Lucy LeBang. Going through, oh wow, that foundation doesn't work quite as much as it used to. I have a trick to making sure, you know, you can't, you know, I could think of like, there's people that say that you could put your makeup on in 15 minutes, but not Lucy LeBang. And Lucy LeBang's never lost it. But Lucy LeBang is like realizing that she may have lost it.
Yeah.
And Luda's very interesting.
Yeah.
Whether or not Luda is real or not, I assume Luda to be real. Dom was there at the restaurant, if I'm getting the names right. The director was there, and they saw Luda, and I think he was the one that was like super on board.
Oh yeah.
But Lucy LeBang, our narrator, is constantly shaping Luda into a younger version of her. Even though she's still wearing and the thing about Lucy or Luda is that that's been going on for a very long time. I don't want to spoil everything, but the mystery of who Luda is kind of what drives this book. But everything is from Lucy's point of view, and it's Lucy's story. Even in the end, Lucy is like controlling the narrative, and whether or not something happened, we have to leave up to our imagination. But Lucy is the one that's controlling everything. Oh, by the way, we also had another cat, you know. I see people hanging on to this and thinking like, wow, there's like really great moments, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily a book that I want to reread, even though there's a lot to reread.
Yeah, no, it's I feel like there probably is rereadability in this.
Oh, I feel there is for sure.
Yeah. Some of the problems come from when Grant is writing, and this is their first prose fiction novel, I feel like if they cut out a lot of the flowery bullshit, this book would be half the size, and I would get exactly the same out of it.
I 100% agree with you. The thing about a novel is that you are allowed to put that bullshit in there.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, but sometimes he goes overboard.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they go overboard. It is what section of the store do you file this under? That's what another thing I have. Literature. I'm gonna just put it under literature. That's where that book about someone climbing a mountain and that person with the freaks goes. you know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put this in literature. But like, if there was like any kind of specificity, if I said that word right,
Yeah.
that you could put this under, like, is this LGBTQ? Is this above that? Is it mystery? Is it suspense? With the magic, is it I don't know, sci-fi or something like that?
Yeah.
Who is this written for, do you think, other than Grant Morrison?
I think it's written for Grant fans, that people who are already like, oh, Grant Morrison, there's going to be magical realism and sarcasm and this and that, and a healthy amount of pretension. So I'll pick it up. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's tough because you couldn't recommend this to like, like someone who's like older. I don't know how much they'd enjoy this, but then also someone younger, I don't know how much they'd enjoy. You're like, there's
I think
a
it's
lot.
I think it now that we're talking about it, I feel it is very philosophical. I think there's a lot that a person can get from it. As I was reading it, I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to reread this book. There are things that I missed, but I got to get through this book so that we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
There are things that I missed that I want to go back and highlight all the stuff that isn't part of the play so they can all be separated, and then find all the separations when he's talking. Luda plays more than one character. Luda. All right, so the thing about Luda is that she is the primary boy, and the deal is, if I got this right, the deal is that Aladdin is supposed to be played by a woman playing a man. But the deal about Luda is that she's a man. And the reason why we know is that Lucy was in the bathroom at the same time and just knows the trajectory of things. And I mean, all right, awesome. Great moment. So like they're talking about that, but Lucy's on board. But there's so much more to the character. And then that's where, like, is Grant fucking with us? Is this real? Is this person playing these characters? You find out later about all sorts of things. And then there's the concept of the glamour that's running through the entirety of this book. This is if I was going to, like, this is Grant Morrison's magic, to those of you out there. But placed within these characters. And I play D&D, and glamour would be like an illusion or something like that. And all through the book, Luda is getting lessons from Lucy about how to apply things, and she's asking questions. I thought that Luda was going to take this, and then this book was going to get into, I'm fucking using this magic, and I'm gonna fuck shit up. And all of those kind of things happen within the book. Not quite as powerful as as I imagined. I thought, like, really what I thought was Lucy's essence, or that Luda was gonna, like, just totally take over. And there was a climactic moment towards the end of the book. I don't know if that necessarily happens, but there's some crazy stuff going on in this. Do you think that, like, so my critique of Neil Gaiman is that he never took what he did in comic books and put it in novel form. Like, he just never was as big as he was in comic books. Like, there's this universe that was just so small that Neil Gaiman was bigger than it. But Grant Morrison, here he's going and trying to apply this trade in novel form. Do you think because personally I do. I think he went for it. Do you think he went for it?
I think so. Yeah, I kind of wish we maybe got like a slightly different kind of story, but definitely went for it. And I do know from the discussion there elements of it were nearly autobiographical in terms of when Lucy was talking about being a kid, getting into drag, like the conversation with the parents, like don't tell your dad, all that stuff. That's all at least semi autobiographical.
Oh yeah, I there were so the elements of the book that I really enjoyed are where it felt real. It felt like Grant Morrison talking about like he's talking about Detective Comics 434, just to let people know. Introduction of the Spook Man, the Spook. That he does talk about comic books within. He doesn't overdo it too much. I did feel it was kind of cringy for the most part. I kind of wanted him to diverse himself from comic books, kind of like the way Chris Claremont didn't do in that first book. And I there was that, but it made sense. Kids reading this kid is him somewhat. There were other elements when Lucy and Luda are talking trash to each other. Yeah, it sounded catty, like you would expect drag queens to sound like, but there were elements of truth, like you can't look young. I can wipe the shit off and I can look like me again, but you're always going to be you. And I feel that. I understand that. I mean, it doesn't have to be me wearing, stilettos or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's relatable in that sense of that, like, getting older, dealing with that. There are parts in the book where I definitely, and it sounds like you might have gotten there at a few points too, where Grant is just going so on and on about that, where I'm like, stop being a whiny bitch. You're getting older. We're all getting older. Shut up. But but then like you kind of like reset and realize like, oh, Grant knows what they're doing. Like they're doing that, like it's intentional.
Right.
Like they're kind of like subverting that and doing this like over the top parody of a person. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to be feeling this way because Lucy is handling it horribly and I'm supposed to be annoyed with but even after realizing that, there were still moments where I was like, this is too much.
There were 2 times where Lucy kicks, assuming, characters are who they are, 2 times where Lucy kicks Luda out of her house. And then this one time Luda comes crying. And I'm like, this is very relatable. All of this, like, it's fantastical and ridiculous. And isn't that what drag is all about? But I'm I'm not a fan. I have a friend that does drag. Honey Daniels, look her up. And she taught me a lot of stuff, like when you say those aren't even your real boobs. She's like, I paid for these myself. These are mine.
Yeah. That was great.
But I don't enjoy drag shows, and I don't know if I really would have enjoyed this version of Aladdin. I think of all the people that are like up in arms about kids seeing drag shows. One of the reasons why I showed so many clips in the beginning.
Oh, sure. But no, I don't know how this would have been. Like I've gone to drag shows and all that before. It's fine. But you got
the one I went to wasn't as choreographed as what this one was intending to be, like a real show. So
yeah,
a little bit different than the ones I've been privy to see.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've been to some high-end like burlesque, and there's like elements of drag in it, but it's a different kind of thing. But that have been like high quality, like kind of shows. But but yeah, it's
Don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot of Benny Hill. Okay, you know.
Sure. But
I don't know what Dave Chappelle was bitching about personally, because like everybody was wearing a fucking dress back in the day.
But God, you know, it's the thing too is Grant's really upfront about like things like racism in the book too, and kind of being like, yeah, that's a racist stereotype in this play, but what are you gonna do? And like
you're talking about like the detectives Ping and Pong, who the
Pong, yep.
character can't even tell apart.
Mhm.
And there's a few other moments like that. Yeah, I do you think it's because drag queens are catty, so they can get away with it? Is that like is this a stereotype that he's doing, or is this what people expect anyway? Do you think it's okay with this character that this person's like this?
I think to an extent, because Lucy LeBang, I don't think is supposed to be a likable character.
Right.
So I think it works.
There's so many elements to the story, because like who Luda is unfolds without Luda being in the book almost towards the last like quarter of the book. Then we get the culmination, the event that we've all been waiting for. But the reveal is, it feels sort of noir, you know, like I'm kind of reading like a detective novel. But without blowing everything, it's just like it's just a very interesting book, and I'm very happy that Grant Morrison wrote it. I just I don't know about its like I worry for books. I don't know if you saw, there was like this tweet storm that this person put out of this like article of what books sell, and this was like from a 2020 article or and it was damning. It was like 98% of books don't sell like 2,000 copies, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And the one where they say like half of them, like under like 48% only sell like 2,000 copies, you know, it's just like, you know, really crazy amounts. And I don't know if they're talking about, you know, stores. I mean, we know there's a lot less stores that are out there, so that makes a lot of sense. And we often will say generationally that people aren't reading as much as they used to, because, you know, back in the, and I'm gonna be all Grant Morrison about this, back in the days when like people were reading Melville, they were waiting for novels to be published at any time. I'm gonna consume this like crazy. But it's not that way anymore. Not knowing who this book is necessary, like, oh well, definitely any drag queen in my life is going to definitely need this book.
Sure.
Anybody that I know of the LGBTQ community that maybe possibly has time to read novels might possibly read this. But, I think it's deeper than
too.
that.
Yeah, like I would say it could also be offensive to people in that demographic too. So it's like I don't even know if you can recommend or you know, openly to just like, oh, if you're here, you should, you know, it's interesting. But yeah, I don't know what you would even say, like who's the primary demographic of this book, like I don't know.
Grant fans for sure. People like me that are like, I'm gonna read this book and I might not like it, but I'm gonna like it. People that are curious, people, I would definitely recommend it to people that just want to read something that they're not going to have read all the, you know, novels can be just as boring as comic books, you know. There can be eating scenes there too. Very rarely have I read, I just, if the characters could have been somehow a little bit more, and maybe it was a less narrating of the character. But even that is called into question later on in the book, whether or not Luda's the one that's narrating it, or Lucy's the one that's narrating it, or not even necessarily who's narrating it, but who is believable, who is reliable. And often I've read on Sci-Fi Fantasy read along books where we don't know if the narrator of this book is necessarily reliable, because they have agendas that they're trying to accomplish. And I think for sure Lucy LeBang, Grant Morrison's main character, who's narrating the entirety of the book for the most part, barring any magical stuff that's going on, is a narrator, not necessarily reliable though.
I don't think Lucy's reliable.
The time she and Luda get together in the very beginning, I think kind of lends to she's not reliable. When she says she and there's blowjobs involved, I don't know if there's anybody reliable anymore.
Well, you're also dealing with, like right off the bat, like you were talking about when they were first getting together, Lucy goes very quickly from, I need to establish this is just like, this isn't going to be a physical thing, to like almost immediately being like, and then we got physical. I don't know if you're a reliable person.
And then like later on, she's like, this is not happening. And she wants to make sure that everybody knows. Lucy wants to make sure that everybody knows. Everybody's backstage. They're like, Luda and her are hanging out. I enjoy the book. I thought it was pretty darn good. And even though during the book I was thinking that I wouldn't reread it, I think ultimately I will come back to it. I will do those highlightings, and maybe there will be a real Sci-Fi Fantasy read along, chapter by chapter, like normal. But I just like Grant Morrison. I enjoy that he puts forth something that most people wouldn't. He's daring. He will offend, and he still does. And I can't wait to find out what other people think about it. And watch that review. How do you feel about it? How like in your summation, what do you think about Luda, Grant Morrison's first novel?
I think it's a good debut. I think it was good. It might be very good. I have to hold off from saying it's like a masterpiece, is excellent, or anything like that. Maybe I'll think that after reading it again.
Right.
Because there's definitely more to it that you just don't get with a first read. So I'm holding off on that. But from a first read, it's a very good book.
I appreciate the effort. There were times when I hated it. I gotta admit, but many times my favorite book is something I hated somewhere in reading it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about writing. It's you can pour through something really quick. You can reread it. You can really absorb it. I liked it. I thought it was a really good book. I feel like I have to defend it to myself a little bit. Maybe as I upon other readings I'll feel even stronger about it. But darn, I'm really happy that it happened. And that's really where it comes down to. And I'm happy to be able to sell it at the store. Let's see. Some people said, Skip and Tosh says, this sounds hella interesting. You got to know that we're really not trying to blow this for you, because there's so much mystery. And it's not a mystery, but it is. There's sex parties. We didn't even talk about that. That's in the very beginning of the book, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Where everything is told in clips, like little frames, like this person's getting fucked up during this party. And each time there's a different clip of something that's going on. And you don't know what's real and what isn't. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah. No, we didn't even get to like the flat police or any of that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. there's danger and intrigue and a lot of talk about this Aladdin from the Orient. Is that what I was? Do I have that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. I'm like, wait, this isn't Aladdin. I mean, it is Aladdin, but it's not a. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I have to play this really quick clip, so that we do this really quick. All right. This is almost the end of the show. This is the end of the show. I am not going to play a song going out. I'm just going to thank all of our patrons. You have given me the time and the energy, and most importantly, the money to be able to ignore all the comic books that I should have been reading while I've been reading this. There's post-it notes in here. Why don't I start at the beginning of the book when I start seeing things? These are all like Grant Morrisonisms, things that I liked. I never talked about any of them. Every chapter heading in this book is like binary. Yeah. The chapter titles are binary. And on the chapters you can see like binary code up at the top of the page. Very unimportant. But what is most important is that I didn't clip that Big Bang Theory clip that I had that dealt with binary code. So you can thank yourselves, because I had the wisdom and the money to not do such a thing. Thank you, all our patrons. You're the reason why I do this. The customers that come in the store are the reason why I do this. And the people that are watching, the millions and hundreds of people that watch this are the reason why I do this. Thank you very much for tuning in. Joe, thank you very much for joining me and talking about LUDA. Who else is going to invite you over to do LUDA?
No problem. Yeah, no one has. So.
What, Wes doesn't want to talk about LUDA?
I guess not.
I was reading rather than being on the show. And you were on the show, so I was bummed.
It's okay.
And you're a trooper doing all of this stuff for us little people. But yeah, everybody come on in, buy LUDA. Come on in, buy the Image Anniversary 5th, 6th, and 7th issue to be eligible for a Miss America Chavez volume or issue 1. Eligible. It's not a guarantee. It's just an eligible. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time. Bye.